you mentioned a lot of different positions, everything from a casting assistant to casting manager. I mean, there's associate casting, there's additional casting by. Can you kind of give us the lay of the land of what a casting team is and what everybody does?
Sure. I think the thing to know about different casting teams is everybody works differently. So in one office, a casting associate might be almost like a junior casting director, or they could be a senior associate who's like a junior casting director. An assistant doesn't necessarily know as many actors as an associate does, is just trying to learn the lay of the land. So their job is perhaps more clerical, more entry level, while they're learning the ropes. An associate is someone who's forged a strong relationship with a casting director and who has a bit more autonomy in terms of helping come up with lists for different roles, auditioning actors for different roles, communicating with directors and producers, additional casting. That can be a number of different things. The casting director can be done with a job, moved on, and they had another scene or another sequence that they wanted to film and they had to hire somebody else to do it. Or there's somebody in another city that they needed to hire.
Do you have any advice for actors that don't? Do you watch a lot of tape prior to self-taped stuff? Watch a lot of what people have already done? And if actors don't have a lot of tape on themselves, any advice for that?
Yeah, I do. And in fact, you guys, this is really interesting because whether or not you're represented, if you're on Actors Access or you're on Breakdown Express, even if you don't have tape on yourself, tape yourself doing a scene that you're really good at and put it up there. Because it's a difference maker for me when I'm going through a submission or I'm going through an Actors Access submission. If I don't know you and you've got a tape up there of a scene that you do really well, a part that you play really well, it helps me get to know you better. And it sets you apart from the person next to you who's a lot like you, who's your type, your age, your gender, whatever the case may be, who doesn't have anything there. So don't think that just needs to be a professional clip or reel.
Any advice for self-taping? Any do's and don'ts?
Yeah. I have do's and don'ts for self-taping. I think it's really important that you're in good lighting, that you give us a nice full body shot and state your name and your height. I think that everything should be in different files, so it shouldn't be one long file with your my name and my height, and then you rush back to the wall and stand and start. I don't think you should do that. So, let's just keep it really tight and professional. And then I would do each scene twice. I like to advise actors, put yourself in the director's shoes or the casting director's shoes, however it's easier for you to envision. Put yourselves in our shoes and say, how could this scene, you're going to do your own scene study, but beyond that, and beyond the choices that you're going to make, you're always going to have questions about how the choices that you're making for the scene. So put yourself in the director's shoes and say, well, what are the two different ways that I could actually go with this? And then do the scene each way in separate files. And that's what I say to do, because then we have a sense of what you can do. Well, even when we weren't doing this, even when we were having in-person producer sessions on Blue Bloods, for example, if an actor couldn't be there and sent in a self-tape, if they sent one take, the producer would invariably say, I wish she had done it again angrier. So do it again angrier. If I don't need to see the angrier take, I won't show it. In fact, we just had an actress tape for FBI, and she did one scene really sad and then another scene, and we asked her to do it again, and she amped up the energy, and I ended up liking the first take better. So she got the job, and I said to Josie and John, let's make sure that we send her both takes and let her know which take got her the job.
Are you a proponent of self-taping? Is it just a necessary evil? As some casting directors kind of hate it, some love it.
I've found that we've just learned so many more new actors. Not new, but I've become so much more educated on people because, like you said, I would be that person well, I know who these people are. I know their strengths. I know they can do this. And if I only had a limited amount of time to see this role, because I needed to see actors for 20 roles on Blue Bloods, they'd be the the first group that I'd want to bring in. I mean, we just found a guy for one of the guest leads in episode 3 of FBI this season. I had no idea who he was. He was from LA. He was spectacular. I wouldn't have had that opportunity to, if he hadn't self-taped, I wouldn't have known him.
I find that the advice of think like a director sometimes can be taken way too far. Seeing actors get tripped up by props or by location, or do you want to see people in the location where they're supposed to be?
People do that now. They do. They'll shoot themselves coming out of a car, doing the scene, playing the scene. Someone sent in a scene of them in a bar, because the scene was shot in a bar. Yeah. And it's entertaining, and sometimes they have actor friends in the scene working with them, and it's very entertaining, but it's not going to get them the job if I like someone else's performance. You know what I mean? Like I'm not blinded by the production value of the audition.
What percentage of roles that you cast are filled with people that you know already versus cold auditions?
I think since the pandemic and since we have such a proliferation of self-tapes, Michael, it's so much easier for us to meet people that we didn't know before. And meaning watch their auditions. Because obviously when you had only so many hours in a day to see actors for a guest role, you would gravitate towards actors that you knew. Versus now, I can put out appointments for 50, 60 actors for a day player or a guest star and stumble upon some gems and learn people I didn't know. That's really cool.
And how much of your time is spent and your team's time is spent finding new actors, finding new talents, as well as following the trajectory of current talent or known talent?
It's all we do. Yeah.
And in what ways? Like, tell us what are you out there doing?
We go to the theater. We watch everything. Movies, television series, streaming series, everything that we can get our hands on. And everyone in the office is really involved and we meet new actors all the time, and we do follow their trajectory. I mean, the actor who comes in for one scene and we're like, oh my God, they're really good. Not for this part, but really good. And then we keep trying them and trying them and trying them. It's funny, I actually met an actor years and years ago at a workshop, and I thought she was really good. And I was like, well, let's bring her in for this small role on Blue Bloods. It was a little day player role. She played a journalist. And she got the part. She was terrific. She took a picture with Tom Selleck. It was really sweet. And we were having trouble on this part recently on FBI. And Josie said, well, what about Susie Q? And I said, okay, let's give Susie Q a try. And thinking this part's going to be a little big for her. It's a guest star. And I just watched her audition before I came here. And I texted Josie and I was like, I really liked Susie Q. Let's send her to producers. So that was really exciting. She was like, hasn't she grown? And I said, she really has. So that's really exciting for us.
Has chasing name, quote unquote, name actors changed much over the past years?
I think it has. I mean, we can all look at TV shows and streamers and broadcast television and see all the names that are in, that star in them. People that back when I was starting out and Beth was starting out, when you checked on them for a series, the answer would be no TV, no TV. Now, all those no TV people, like we would literally have availability lists for the studio executives with, pages would say no TV next to people's names. We'd be checking on them. Now, most of those people do TV. Mm-hmm. And I'm using TV blanket, right? Like streaming, scripted programming.
Are you interested, or are the producers you're working with pushing you to be interested in actors' social media world?
It's to this day, I've never been pushed to be interested in someone's social media profile. There was one time on a show that I was casting about 7 years ago called Gotham, where one of our producers loved this guy on YouTube and wanted us to read him for one of the guest leads. And the guy ended up passing. And it was my guess that he passed because he was like, I can't do this. Like I don't know how I'm not an actor. He looked at the sides and I can't handle that. But that was the one and only time.
How much does your relationship with actors reps come into the process?
I mean, I think we definitely put the quality of the actor and the appropriateness of the actor for the role first, because it's my name on the show, it's my job on the line. Like if I wanted to just avoid every agent I didn't care for, I wouldn't do a good job. You know what I mean? Like it's a necessary evil.
So you don't blame the clients for the agents or managers.
No, I just deal. You know what I mean? Just have to deal with it.